Hello and welcome to this video where we'll go into navigation of DuckDB. So we'll go into slides today in this lecture, and then just to make you navigate around in DuckDB to see how it looks like. So this may be your first look into DuckDB. So you can see that how it works, and then afterwards you will go into setting up in the next video. So I hope that you will follow along, and let's move on to the slides. So here I am in the slides, navigating around in DuckDB in command line tool and the local UI. So this is just the slides. So let's take a look into how it looks like. So the interactive command line interface of DuckDB. So when you're typing DuckDB and you take a name here and then .duckdb, you're creating a database file basically. And here you can see, here is the version. This was a little bit old. You can see 0.10.3. We are actually, when on this recording, we're up into version 1.4.1, I think. And here you can see when I do desk, this is short for describe. And what you can see is that it describes database, schema, name, etc. And here you can see that there is nothing inside here because we have just created this database. Okay. And down here, it accepts new commands. So you can do a lot of SQL commands here, and also something called dot commands in DuckDB. So here is the database. So it's command to launch a DuckDB session and open a persistent database called salaries.duckdb. And one thing to note is that at first it's not persistent, but it becomes persistent when you do some commands. For example, I do desk. This is just a command to describe things, but then that you will get this DuckDB file. You will get this salaries.duckdb where you are in the terminal, where you are in the CLI. Depending if you are, for example, inside of a folder, and then you run this DuckDB salaries.duckdb, and then you run desk, then you will see that this salaries.duckdb will be stored in that folder. So here, desk, interactive CLI accepts SQL commands and DuckDB specific commands. Okay, so this is an interactive CLI command line interface. So how to interface with DuckDB. And this is the output of the command. So for this particular command, we see this. When you do like select star from something or doing some other select queries, then you will see the output directly in your terminal. So the SQL script, this SQL script ingests data from a CSV file into a DuckDB database. So you can look into this one. It looks like this. We have data in salaries.csv. And for this example here, we have ingest salaries and salaries.duckdb. They are in the root of this folder. And to access this file here, you can see we have data/salaries.csv. But let's go through this in detail. So we have create table if not exists, job salaries as select star from read CSV auto, and then we have data/salaries.csv. So here it creates a table and stores the data and read from the CSV file. So this creates a table inside of our database. Note that we have, or when we run this, it opens it in the database, and then you can do if, and then it looks, if this table doesn't exist, it will create this table called job salaries. And here you have a subquery as select star from read CSV auto, so it will read the CSV file. And you use data/salaries because from the root's perspective, the salaries is inside of the data folder. Okay. So this is the path to the CSV file. So there are different ways of running SQL script in DuckDB CLI. So one way is like this. So here you can see we have done DuckDB salaries.duckdb, and then there's some arrow here, ingest salaries.sql. So this means something called input redirection, where this file, the content of this file, will be sent into this DuckDB CLI and run this command inside. So afterwards, when you have done that, when you do DuckDB salaries.duckdb, and you run like select star from job salaries, you can see we get the data out. So this part here is input redirection. It takes content from ingest salaries.sql as the input. This is another way to run it. So here we run DuckDB salaries.duckdb, and then you do this command here, .read ingest salaries.sql. And then you select star from job salaries. So this is a dot command. These are special commands in DuckDB, and when you do .read, you read this SQL file that is in the same folder. Okay? So it's a dot command which requires an active session. So you need to have a DuckDB session up before you can run dot commands. While this with input redirection, you don't open DuckDB. So you do this in your normal terminal. For example, sed shell, bash, git bash, etc. And then there's another file that is important. It is important, but you only need to know what it is, but you shouldn't touch it. So it's a dot file, the write ahead log. Dot file maintains data integrity and recoverability. So when you are opening up a database and you are changing the database, you're modifying it, and then you will see that there's a .while file opened. This is a file that will be closed automatically when you close down the DuckDB connection. So it's a temporary file that writes changes to these logs before applying to the database file. .file created when the database changes, like in insert, update, or delete operations. So if you see that this one exists, don't be frightened. It's just a log file. So it disappears after clean shutdown of DuckDB session. For example, when you do Control-C in Windows and Control-D in Mac. So when you're shutting down your session, then the .file will be cleaned and actual changes will happen in your database. So it ensures exit compliance to get data integrity. So exit, we will come back later on. DuckDB can use .file to restore database in case of crash. Okay. And then this is something new. The local UI, it's a friendly notebook-style way to interact with DuckDB. So what you do is that you have DuckDB-UI, and then you take your DuckDB database name. So, for example, YouTube ytvideos.duckdb. And then you will get this beautiful UI up. Here you have notebook cell for SQL commands. And you have the output here. So here's the cell. And here's the output. And then here you can, this side here is the summary statistics. So you can see the details for these queries here. And here you choose which database you want. So this is new to version 1.2. I think they released this local UI, which was around spring 2025. It's really new, but it's really useful. Before, when you didn't have this, what I would teach was to connect to dbeaver, which works, but there's some connections and details that are not really nice. And I think that this is really nice and a quick way to get started and work with DuckDB. So in this video, we have gone through a little bit of DuckDB navigation. So we looked into how to work with the CLI, the DuckDB CLI, and then we went into how to ingest data into DuckDB database, and we used a dot command and also used input redirection. And then finally we showed the local UI so that you can take a look into that. And in the next video, we'll actually set up DuckDB and you will see these things in action also. So we'll show how to ingest data and how to connect with DuckDB and database. So I hope that you've learned a lot in this video, and see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye.